Let's go to this now. The world is living through multiple crises, from hunger, the COVID-19 pandemic, a strained global economy, and the impact of climate change, among others. So Oxfam has published its Survival of the Richest report as the World Economic Forum opened in Davos. The report says since 2020, the richest 1% have captured the last two-thirds of all new wealth, nearly twice as much money as the bottom 99% of the world's population. We speak now to Oxfam's SAF Just Economies Policy Program Manager, MacPherson Mdalla. Thank you so much, MacPherson, for your time this evening. I mean, your report lays bare the unprecedented crises that the world is going through currently. Yet, through this, we are seeing the 1% amassing more wealth by the day. What would you say is behind this 20s boom for the world's richest?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Actually, this is happening because of quite a number of things. The first one is that, as you are aware, the cost of living has been increasing, has been rising. And besides that, there is also an issue of inflation crisis that has happened. But the underlying current, besides all that, is the COVID-19 pandemic, which saw quite a lot of billionaires getting super rich and amassing wealth on account of the pandemic. While that has been happening, the levels of poverty and inequality has also been rising, because not everyone has been able to access the riches. Those that are poor have ended up becoming more poor, becoming poorer and poorer, and those that are rich becoming richer and richer. And therefore, all this speaks to the need to ensure that there is wealth redistribution. But that cannot happen unless the taxation regimes are looked in differently, and governments take an initiative to ensure that levels of taxation amongst the billionaires and those that are super rich are well taken into consideration, to ensure that the growing levels of inequality, the rising levels of poverty are well taken into consideration. And this is what the Oxfam report sheds more light on, and bringing in the specific solutions that can deal with that issue. And key in this is the issue of taking another look at how taxation is done amongst different governments.
And as you talk about it, even in your report, really calling for the wealth tax to then be re-looked at. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this one, because there are seemingly those of the school of thought who seem to think that, tax cuts for the richest can result in their wealth somehow finding their way, trickling in to the rest of everyone else. Has this happened? Is it true? Is it something that you found as you are researching as well?
Yes, this is something that can definitely happen, because at the end of the day, it's just a matter of ensuring that there is a need for new social contracts between the citizens and their governments. And for that to happen, definitely the conglomerates, the billionaires, those that super rich should come in, because they are already up there in terms of the wealth. And unless redistribution through taxation is done, then it will be difficult for the gap in terms of those that do not have and those that have it to have that particular gap redressed. So it really needs some action in terms of taxation.
Yeah, and pardon me for coming in and cutting in there, but is there a willingness on both parties to actually do this? Because it's been talked about for quite some time, but we're not seeing quite a lot of movement on that front.
It's now a matter of this is now what the research is all about, bringing that kind of awareness around these issues on the basis of evidence. And unless one appreciates the evidence that is there, it will be difficult for others to appreciate that indeed this is a problem. But the statistics that the report shows presents it clearly that indeed this is a problem that needs to be addressed. And already there are some amongst those that are super rich that have even align themselves with what the report is suggesting in terms of wealth redistribution through taxation,
Yeah.
and they are in agreement that this indeed needs to be done. And if this doesn't happen, then we will see the gap continuing to widen and levels of inequality growing.
Do they also agree with the sentiment that extreme concentrations of wealth is also bad for economic growth? Do they agree with that?
Yes, there is that agreement, because already we are only talking about 1%.
Yes.
And if we're talking of 1%, it means 99% do not have as much as we are talking about. So unless this is seen from that perspective, then nothing can probably happen. But there is that agreement to say, indeed, 1% should not only just enjoy, but there has to be a need for redistribution.
Especially when you look, pardon me, especially when you look at the fact that, I mean, 1.7 billion workers living in countries where inflation is outpacing their salaries. And this is, you know, juxtaposing it with the difficult decisions that they have to make on a daily basis for survival. If this picture continues, it's going to have an adverse impact on this 1.7 billion workers to then be able to make ends meet.
Yes, it's indeed a very big problem, because at the end of the day, there will be additional multiple levels of crisis that will emerge. And unless we deal with this, then it will be difficult to deal with other ensuing crises that can emerge from that aspect of inequality that will continue to grow.
And let's talk about, I mean, the pandemic itself. I mean, we saw many low-income countries struggling to turn the situation around, particularly when it comes to the economies, especially when we saw the rates at which vaccinations were happening and in some countries not happening. And we saw the hoarding there, which made it also difficult for some countries to bounce back. Looking at the picture now, it's over 2 years on. Is it improving at all on that front?
Yes, I would say there is an improvement, because now access to vaccinations has been global. Most African countries have been able to access vaccination, and besides that, research and development has also been growing to see how far African countries and those that have are not well developed can come in and get the support and assistance that they require. But above all that, making sure that their levels of scientific discovery and levels of work around that on their own is also something that is happening. So the 2 years have brought with a lot of lessons that African countries and those that were lagging behind as far as issues around vaccination and all that are concerned, have been able now to look at the lessons they have been able to draw from this, and with the support that has been provided by the rich countries, now delving into ensuring that everyone accesses the vaccines, but also issues around research and issues around making the provisions related to the same available, all that are playing. So there is indeed a change that we are seeing on the basis of research that is being conducted, but on the basis of the advocacy around addressing levels of inequality that has also been happening amongst different CSOs. And a lot of governments have bought into this and also advocating for the same amongst the rich countries. So there is a change that we are seeing at the moment.
And one can hope that the change is accelerated to see the gap, narrowing as much as it should be. But thank you so much for your thoughts there and sharing this report with us, MacPherson. We do appreciate it. That was Oxfam SAF Just Economies Policy Program Manager, MacPherson Mdalla.